is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today we're going to talk about nutrition, but nutrition in a different way that we never really thought of, did we? Now, there are few things that this person, this guest who's going to be on here, it's an expert on autism, ADHD, all the other, EDS also, for a matter of fact, and we'll talk about the other stuff too. But they're kind of all related to nutrition, right? And now the question is, which nutrition is good for you and which is bad for you? Well, we'll get into that too. But we never knew that nutrition is really a crucial thing in your life. As they always say, right? Health is wealth. So let's talk about that today. And let's make sure and let's find out a little more detail about that with our guest of ours. And her name is Faith. And she's an amazing person. I did talk to her before and she's here. So Faith, thank you again for coming on Back to Basics.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again, Faith. So before we talk about the nutrition and what you do and what you don't do, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
Back to basic means going to the fundamentals, what everything is built off of. If you go into math, the basics are 1 + 1 = 2. If you don't know that, then the rest of math isn't going to make sense because you need to know that. So it's the basics, the primary things that everything else is built on.
Yeah. Faith, thank you again for answering that question. And thank you again for coming on to Back to Basics here. Let me ask you this. Is nutrition a really crucial thing in health? I mean, it's a given, right? But it seems like there's more to that than that. So can you explain that if you don't mind?
Well, your food is basically your fuel that you're giving your body, and it actually will indicate which genes would be expressed.
Hmm.
You can prevent genes that are leading toward that make you more prone to a disease to not express versus positive ones expressing.
Hmm.
It gives your body what it needs to sustain life and to give energy to do what you want to do in
Hmm.
life.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Thank you again for answering that question. The thing is, it seems like, um, is it okay to say shit? I guess it is, right? It's like saying you bring shit in, you take shit out, right? So basically, you want to take something good into your body so then you can give good positive vibes out from your body itself. You think that's a good analogy or that's a bad analogy?
I would say it would be a good analogy. I would always think of what goes in must come out. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you again for that. Can you give a little list or a proper list? I mean, let's go by this. The ADHD, it seems like that we're supposed to be having good nutrition on there, right? Do you think coffee is kind of replacing medicine? Or is it coffee not good for you anyway because that's too much of caffeine? So what are your thoughts on that part and what should you bring in? I mean, that's just an example.
Coffee, just like everything is in moderation, there are things that say if you have like 1 or 2 cups that can be good and for you, prevent helps with stimulations. I Those with migraines might find that either will make their migraines worse or because it dilates your blood vessels. So if you've got constricted blood vessels, it helps release it. If food is in its essence a form of medicine, probably better than the medicines out there. So caffeine, if you're overstimulated stated, then caffeine may not be a good option for you, and you shouldn't have a lot of caffeine.
Mm,
But a little bit of it shows like a positive, but if too much actually becomes a negative.
Yeah, thank you again for that. For ADHD, for autism and EDS and what is it, JA, right? All these items, we need good nutrition. Now the question is that do we take uh, more fat, more protein, more sugar, less sugar? Is keto diet okay? Is veganism okay? I mean, what are your thoughts on these items here, and which one is better, which one is worse?
So carbs are not bad. So that's the one thing with like the keto diet is they avoid all carbs. What it is you want to have good quality carbs. So the thoughts is the basics is to have unprocessed plant-based diet. So not necessarily going completely vegan, but if you think of not having any more than 8 ounces of meat a day. But so basically, and the basic definition of a processed food, unprocessed. So a food is unprocessed if there's nothing good taken out and nothing added to it. So
Hmm.
you're processed adding sugar or fat into something or like taking out nutrition. So like steel cut oats, technically, if you think about it, it's been changed form, it's processed, but it's unprocessed in that you didn't take anything out of it and you didn't add anything into it.
Hmm.
So that's the basic, and you can even think in a simple traffic light
Hmm.
process. Green foods are your unprocessed plant foods. Your yellows are unprocessed meat and processed semi-processed vegetables, and then complete unprocessed animal products and extremely processed plants are your red. So you would might have some reds to foods so that you would eat your green foods that are in the green and the traffic light.
Hmm. And the reason why you recommend that vegan is not good is because it's less B12s, and there are other
I'm
vitamins
I'm
which
I
are
just
less.
I'm not saying it's not good and it's not bad.
Hmm.
I'm saying that animal products in itself is okay to have a little bit of,
Hmm.
but not. So I'm not saying you absolutely have to go vegan, and some people it depends because there's some people who have trouble processing B12.
Hmm.
And if you are going to go vegan, you should supplement with B12s. But the food areas of the people that have lived the most over 100 years are predominantly like a vegetarian with just a little bit of your lean meats, especially like seafoods, occasionally your Mediterranean diet, the 7 Day Adventist,
Hmm.
etc. That's what has characterized in general is in their diet.
Hmm. Hmm. So basically, moderations is the key, right? I mean, little of this and little of that, not too much of it either. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
because if you restrictive diets don't work because you eventually when you restrict yourself, you're not in calories, you're not going to give yourself enough energy. You're
Hmm.
restricting yourself, extremely restricting yourself, and saying you're not going to eat something. You could be one losing nutrition, two y- you're going to want something, and your cravings are going to come over. Then you're going to get it so long. It's having a healthy lifestyle and just making those simple choices.
Hmm.
And so when you see something, you just go to the basic, which is a healthier option.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, totally, totally. Thank you again for explaining that, Faith. Just recently, I saw your post on LinkedIn that you just got certified. Can you explain what certifications that you got passed? I think you got a whole bunch of them on your LinkedIn profile. Can you just like explain that to people if you don't mind?
So I got certified through the American Fitness and Professionals Associations. I have a certified in holistic nutrition and certified health holistic health coach.
Hmm.
So together it's holistic health coaching. And then I just recently they just added certification in autoimmune holistic nutrition
Hmm.
because autoimmune conditions have becoming more prevalent, and I
Hmm.
want to be able to best serve others with knowledge and have the right knowledge to help others.
Mhm. Can you explain the autoimmune for me, if you don't mind? I mean, how is that different than just a regular nutrition certification?
So we focused on what causes and what aspects you can do to improve an autoimmune condition. So we really focused on conditions, your over 200 conditions of autoimmune, that's lupus, Addison's. Addison's is one of the rare rheumatoid arthritis, where immune system the immune system basically asks two questions of anything. Is it part of the body, and is it foreign? Like, is it not good?
Mm,
And the problem is that the immune system identifies part of your body as not your body,
mm,
and then it attacks it. So whether that means that that body part has changed, so it's not recognizing it,
mm, mm,
and it's not just like nutrition as you think of food. We talked about all the aspects:
mm,
stress,
mm.
environmental toxins. It really is a very complex.
Of course, of course. Yeah, thank you again, Faith, for explaining that. But let me ask you this: what made you get into all the nutrition side of these certifications? What really triggered you to just get into nutrition side of things? And you're kind of successful in it, so I wanted to know from your point.
I got into it because I have a passion for helping families with chronic conditions,
Mm,
and if I'm going to give them advice on health or nutrition, I
mm,
want to know that I'm certified, especially that I know what I'm talking about,
mm,
and that they know that I know what I'm talking about. 'Cause so many people just give blanket advice
mm,
without really that training behind it, and it actually chronic condition get a little frustrating because you can't most chronic conditions you can't cure them. It's not like just changing one thing is going to help or make it so that the condition goes
yeah.
away.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Thank you again. And the analogy that you said about the traffic light of the nutrition, I think that's what it is, right? I think it gave you a signal saying, "Let's go and let's learn about it and go beyond that," right? So thank you again for that. Now, you've been doing this for so many years. What are your plans after this for the next 5 years? Because it seems like there's so much to learn, and I've only just touched the tip of the iceberg as to what the nutritions are. So, can you explain that if you don't mind?
Well, I'm one focusing on getting out and try to speak to larger audiences and working with then groups of those who want to explore and have an enriching life and to improve their how they can have the quality of life with the chronic conditions.
Hmm.
Exploring their unique abilities in their condition and how they can live things, focusing on advocacy and increase energy because fatigue and pain are the number two. So focusing on what can I do to relieve pain and increase my energy, and food nutrition is a big part of it because it is what fuels our body.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Thank you again, Faith, for explaining that. You know, the thing is, let me ask you this here: the we have a whole bunch of processed foods in the supermarkets and other grocery stores, right? Um, Can we make the processed foods as nutrition food? Or that's not possible, is it? So so how can we not force people, but explain to people that processed food is not good?
Well, think the whole thing, behind the paleo diet about being back to what things were as nature, uh, that concept of that's how things were meant to be,
Mm,
and just the fact that basically the process is taking out the energy and fuel. So it's got calories, but it's not nutrient
Hmm.
dense.
Hmm.
S- So it's like you're putting in it's like investments, right? You can put in you're not invest the investment won't grow as much
Of
because it's
course.
not.
Of course. Of course. Faith, thank you again. And in the beginning of the call, I did say, you know, all this stuff that we are all going through, the ADHD, the autism, and child's cancer, and all that. But nutrition is also a key. But I don't think these things has anything to do with nutrition. Maybe it does, but I guess even other people, they need to focus on nutrition too, regardless if they have it or don't have these diseases that we're talking about, or these uh, disorder, or whatever the word I'm going to be using. But you understand what I'm saying, right? So what are your thoughts on that part?
Every everyone needs to focus on nutrition because everyone needs energy to do what they're called to do. You need energy to run this podcast.
Mm,
I need energy to coach and speak. Everyone needs that. The other thing is there's proof that living, like talked about at the beginning, that it will actually like shut down genes that might make you more prone. You could live a life where you have a healthy heart. Your your pancreas is working. There's not even a thought of diabetes.
mm,
Affect your chances of prostate cancer, breast cancer. Like you can reduce those to make them like less likely to happen because you're fueling your body and giving it what it needs to repair itself in the DNA so you don't get that change.
mm, mm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Thank you so much for explaining all that. Faith, before you leave today, do you have any last words for all my listeners and my viewers of and how your journey was on Back to Basics too? On top of that,
I think it's important that we all need to go back to the basics, and that's what I start and work with my clients with is going to the basics and then exploring from there.
mm,
I think that's important, and that nutrition it's so complicated with all the options out there, but really keeping it simple to what's going to most fuel my body
mm,
and not trying to label I'm doing a paleo diet because those don't they'll say what you're not eating, not what you are eating. So focus on just making those healthy, following the traffic light, and just keep it nice and simple. It doesn't need to be as complicated as people want to with all the different labels out
yeah, yeah.
there.
Thank you so much, Faith, for coming here, and thank you again for supporting me and supporting this small podcast that I have regarding Back to Basics. And nutrition is definitely one of the keys that people should definitely focus on. So thank you again for coming here, and thank you again for supporting me.
Thanks.
Thank you. So, guys, we spoke with Faith today, and we talked about the basics of nutrition, didn't we? And we talked about, well, I don't like to use the word disability. I don't like to use the word disorder, but all the diseases that we talked about and all the people that they're going through, they need good nutrition. But that does not mean these are the only people need to concentrate on that. We all do. We are running out of time, and we use processed food just to get away with it. But honestly, listen to your body. Do you think your body actually needs processed food? Probably not, right? So just listen to your body, give some good nutritions, and live longer. I mean, that's what it is, right? As usual, as always, what do we always say? Well, before we leave today, before we always say, we'll give you a quote of the day from Back to Basics, like what we usually do. And here's a quote, and hopefully my guest will like that quote. The quote is, "Our food should be our medicine, and our medicine should be our food. Technically, that's what it is, right? And we're trying to eliminate medicine as much as we can. As much as we can. I'm going to repeat that again. So, thank you again, guys. Now, remember, what do we always say? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care. God bless. Keep on commenting on all my episodes because the seasons is almost getting over, and we just need your support and love to give all the comments so that I can actually have a good breather. And there are three things, according to this episode, and every episode of mine becomes a hit because of me, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care. God bless. And I will see you next time on Back to Basics. Take care. Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
Lab, and that we're, like I said, grown. So that's where I'll start off there. And so, like I said, with oil, it is second nature to the skin. The skin produces oil. So then using an oil on the skin is beneficial. Over time, there is through marketing tactics and etc. They've, it's been very well established that people shouldn't use oils or go oil free using this oil free cleanser, this oil free foaming cleanser, whatever it may be, going oil free. So I get a lot of people that are opposed to using oil.